gift. The more effective we are in giving feedback here at Toastmasters and in life, the more each one of us profits in life. Please join me in welcoming Beth Lewis. Feedback is a gift. Feedback is a gift. Beth Lewis.
Resolution this year was to dress nicely, because I tell you, you sure look sharp. I love your coat. Thank you. And that's no laughing matter. It is wonderful to be back. I missed you all immensely. How many of you remember what you did yesterday?
Yeah.
Well, okay, what did you do last weekend? Then it gets tougher. Well, I bet you there was something significant that happened last weekend, because unless it's significant, it's really hard to remember even a week, a month, or a year back. Well, I'm going to share a story with you about when I was 13 years old. So you can imagine this story had a big impact on me. So it's about a road trip that I took with my mom and my cousins to visit my other set of cousins. I only have 2 sets of cousins, so this was a pretty significant trip to get the whole family together. And we drove from Southern California to Northern California, 7 people in a casserole in a Datsun. Actually, the road trip is a whole nother story. This story is going to focus more on my aunt, who I love, Aunt Pica. The name says it all. It's got to be somebody with personality. And being that my mom is half Spanish, and it's her sister, there's a lot of passion in this family. So going on a road trip with Pica would be fun. But I think I understand this now better, as I have teenagers myself and I'm exhausted and trying to work a full-time job. My aunt had 4 kids, worked a full-time job, and then she's got this road trip with 7 people piled into the Datsun with the casserole in the back seat. Poor lady was exhausted. So, you know, even fun Aunt Pica couldn't be at the top of her game. Well, because she was so exhausted, she was on a no makeup kick. So didn't pack any makeup or bring it with her, and we are out enjoying ourselves after the long drive the next day, probably not too good of a night's sleep. And my uncle looks at Aunt Pica and he says, "Oh, Pica, you look awful. You should put some makeup on." Well, Vince, I didn't bring any makeup with me. I'm not wearing makeup on weekends. My mom's standing there and she says, trying to help with the situation, "Oh, Pica, here, I have some lipstick. Let me give you my lipstick." Well, my mom is olive complected, hazel eyes. Pica is blonde, blue-eyed. Probably a rose tint would be good. My mom was into makeup, primarily lipstick, and it was bright orange. So she says, "Pica," gives her the bright orange lipstick. She puts it on. Well, my mom, after my uncle had already told her that she looked awful, she couldn't tell her that she looked worse. And my uncle, who my aunt was already furious with, couldn't say that she didn't look better. So they kind of, "Oh, good, yes." Well, my cousin Amy and I were not there to witness the situation, but we came up a few minutes later and immediately noticed this shockingly bright, incongruent lipstick on my aunt. And 2 13-year-olds, we started laughing.
Oh.
And I think the word clown came out of our mouths. So that was a form of feedback. My uncle's comments to her were a form of feedback, neither of which was effective. And my aunt, this passionate individual, did not speak to my mom for a year. Oh,
Wow.
So many people in life have a difficult time giving feedback. And I love that in Toastmasters we really focus on how to give feedback. And give and receive it. Now, in my work life, I have had a number of bosses who really are horrible at feedback. When I was newly back to work after having kids at ADP, I had a boss that after this meeting when I asked for feedback, she went and told me a whole list of things that were wrong. Well, we won that deal. And, you know, how bad could it have been? So I would have liked to have heard something a little bit more about what went well. And my current boss, he can kind of work on feedback too. You know, he says, well, Beth, sending a LinkedIn invite before you know someone so that they remember you, well, that's just weird. That's a little bit strange to me. Anyhow, he's going to come to Toastmasters at some point. But what I like, and I always think of our dear friend Tevis, is the Oreo method of feedback. Now, the Oreo method, if you haven't heard it, you've got the chocolate wafer on the outside, on one side, and that's something positive that you want to say. You sandwich it between that nice filling. And I tell you, in my household, we don't even go for the single stuffed Oreos anymore. We want the double stuff. So that's your constructive feedback that you sandwich in between, and it's really the good part because that's what benefits us all in life. And then you sandwich it on the other side with another chocolate wafer, which is another compliment. So my advice and wisdom to impart, along with this humor, is to use the Oreo method in your feedback, and we all will profit and continue to improve ourselves and not instill any of these lipstick situations.